What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to Pro v Pro US Open Oakmont hole by hole breakdown, coming off a big week. And Justin, I don't know about you, but of course, I wanted to be playing this week, but it's going to be maybe even more fun on the couch, not being tortured by the course.
So I was sitting around. It's fully member guest season here in Texas, and I played my first one this last weekend. And it's fun being like, people want to play with me. They're like, oh, I get a good golfer in a quota format. And I was like, you know what? I lost in that playoff to get through locals. I'd be laying in bed right now I'd literally be saying, don't shoot 100. How do I get it in under triple digits?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a fact. This is a real conversation I had. Like a guy trying to qualify for the U.S. Open. I feel like I'm a pretty good golfer. I would be thinking about not shooting 100.
Did you see what Ben Griffin said on, I don't remember what podcast it was, but they asked him, like, would you take even par right now? And he was like, not only would I take even par, if you offered me 4 over for the week, I would take it right now and feel good about my chances to win.
Yeah.
Like not just to avoid the embarrassment of maybe shooting 85. He would take 4 over because he thinks it might win. This course is going to be so much fun from the just pure carnage perspective.
And I hope so. I did see they had mowers out today. I did see shortly after that, I think Johnny Vegas tweeted, like, yeah, they're mowing the rough. It's still unplayable. Yeah. So take it for what it's worth. I don't really – this is where the USGA, like, they're like, oh, we're going to make carnage. We're going to do all this. And then they're going to be like, they're going to backtrack. And they've done it before, right? Then they make it too easy for the first round. Then they panic and make it unplayable. Like, where was that, New York or whatever, where Mickelson was hitting the putts while it was still moving. And so just leave it to the USGA to mess it up in some way.
Well, to be fair, I mean, this was the plan all along. They said months ago that they were going to cut it to 5 inches either on Sunday or the Monday before the event and not touch it the rest of the week. So as long as they stick to that, like, this was the plan all along, and it's going to be brutal. The rough is brutal now, and it's just going to grow all week anyway. Before we jump in to the hole by hole, I did want to show coming off yet another really big week. We've been crushing it at FTN. We've been crushing it in my Discord. And I want to give back a little bit. So what I'm going to do for the US Open to make this even a little bit more fun is I'm going to use some of these winnings, and I'm going to run a free to enter contest. The link for the contest is going to be in 2 places. It's going to be in the FTN DFS, PGA DFS Discord channel, and it's going to be in my PGA DFS Discord channel. You can find both of those links in the description. You can find both of those links through my Twitter at AlexBlickle1. And we're going to do prizes. I don't know exactly how much I'm going to give away. $250, $500, something along those lines. I don't know exactly what those numbers are yet, because I want to see how many people are in. I want to make sure that there are enough people, like, with a good enough chance to win. And all of the prize money is going to be through PayPal or Venmo, so that I can verify that everyone in the contest who deserves winnings is actually a subscriber in one of the 2 places. You do not need to be a subscriber to both. Subscribe to FTN or subscribe to my Discord. Does not matter which one. As long as you're in one of them, you're going to be good to go.
And I'll throw some, if the winner is it follows our show and likes our show, I'll throw something in too for whoever wins that, as long as they are part of this show too. So yeah, let's
awesome.
Let's make it a really cool event and see how many people we can get in.
Yeah, that'd be great. Very much appreciate that, Justin. And now let's jump right in to the hole by hole. We're going to do something very similar to what we did for the Truist Championship. Once again, this is a golf course that I have played in the Pennsylvania Open, just like Philly Cricket at the Truist. So we're going to go hole by hole. And actually, before we do that, let's talk about the US Open course fit model, so that as we go hole by hole, we can reference back to this US Open fit model. Just a reminder to everybody, if you aren't familiar with the course fit model we usually do, and what I mean when I say the US Open fit model, we can model quote unquote course fit through all US Open courses. So it becomes like an event fit model instead of a course fit model. But the idea here is that almost all US Open courses test players in similar ways. There's a massive emphasis on both distance and accuracy. It's a very unique thing to the US Open, pretty much just Quail Hollow and PGA Championships. So it's the only other 2 times in a year that this happens, where you get an emphasis on both distance and accuracy instead of them stealing predictive value from one another. And then The other really unique thing about US Opens, approach signal, around the green signal, and putting signal all also go up. Essentially what we're saying is this is such a great test of golf that the best get even better and the worst guys have a harder time competing. So the difference between a great player and a good player, a great player and a bad player, is wider here at the US Open. Anything to add to that, Justin?
No, it's a unique test because you have to have all the tools to hit it far and hit it straight, do all these things. Mm-hmm. The course model really emphasizes, but you also have to be able to do it mentally. And that might be the hardest part about this is not only the ability to do it, but to do it and know that you are going to be punished in the ultimate fashion if you do not.
Yeah, I actually will also say, like, one of the other great things, and look, if you want to get into this DFS contest and you're not a subscriber to one, honestly, I think I'd say if you're only going to subscribe to one, subscribe to FTN Fantasy, because in addition to the ownership projections and the strokes game projections and the GPP scores, which the GPP scores are why I keep winning all these DFS contests. They're like a cheat code. They just make it so easy to make decisions.
And people have to understand that what you do and the way that this GPP stuff works is that, sure, it's going to be a wrong, but when it's right, it's really right. It's not I'm going to finish 50th in the $200 single. It's I'm going to win the 200 single.
Yeah, 100%. And I think another way to look at it is like when a guy has a great GPP score, it does not mean that we think he's going to do really well. When a guy has a bad GPP score, it does not mean that we think he's going to do poorly. It's all relative to their ownership. And to your point, it means that when a guy has a great GPP score, more than anything else, it means when you're right about this guy, it's going to really help your lineup find the top of the leaderboard instead of just I'm in cash. So great call out there. And then the other reason why I think if you're only going to subscribe to one, it should be to FTN Fantasy, because this is another great week to use the splits tool that Josh powers every single week. I want to look at difficult course scoring. I want to look at fast green scoring. There are a couple guys that we've been nailing over the last month or so because we keep playing on fast greens, and the guys with the great fast green splits have delivered over and over. So I really want to go right back to that group. I think it's time to jump right into the first hole here, Justin.
Yeah, and I want to point out something that I had mentioned to Alex before we started here that we're going to see a lot in these videos as you go through them, is the lack of definition in these fairways. So this is the first, and this probably has the most definition on the golf course or close to it with trees down the right. I mean, it's in the conversation of you at least have something to aim at.
I think for anyone wondering like what exactly you're talking about, essentially what you're saying is on most golf courses, most golf holes, things are framed for you in such a way that it's easy to tell like where the ball should go. So one example is like, think of the 9th at Memorial. It's that, shortish par 4, but you have to fit your drive in between trees, and the trees are shaped around the fairway. And so when you're watching or when you're standing on the tee box, it like automatically makes your mind visualize the type of shot shape that you need to hit. It's easy to visualize where the ball needs to go. Nature, if you will, is funneling your vision to where you should hit the ball. At Oakmont, everything is wide open, and it makes your targets look even that much smaller. And trust me, they are small. As you can see here with this first hole, I'll jump ahead a bit. I mean, this is as narrow as it gets. And the misses aren't like, oh, I missed the fairway, but it's fine. You've got these deep penalizing bunkers. You've got out of bounds to the right. You've got more deep penalizing bunkers. Look at the lips on every single one. It's brutal. And the other thing is like, sure, this is one of the shorter approach shots. If you're in this rough, for example, you'd think, all right, I've got 100 yards, 120 yards. It's not going to be that bad. Except this green goes dead away from you. The ball's not going to hold. If the pin's up and you're in the rough, you're guaranteed to be like back in this rough down here, or you miss short. It's just a brutal golf course. It's a brutal opening hole, and it only gets harder from here. Yeah,
I think that like it's one of those holes that if you hit it in the fairway, you're like, man, I could get off to a good start because of the green complex. I'm sure they'll have the pins in a couple of places where you can get it close. If you don't hit it on the green, you're literally saying, I'm probably, or if you don't hit in the fairway, I'm probably making bogey.
Yeah. Or another way of putting it is you're immediately thinking, where do I miss so that I have the easiest up and down opportunity? Because you know you're not going to hold the green. So do you want to be a little bit short in the fairway where maybe you're putting it down to the green onto the green, hopefully near the hole? Or are you purposely like trying to get through the fairway? So for example, like I remember one of these days I missed in the left rough. The pin was back left. And I thought, all right, anything over here is dead. Anything short is dead. I'm going to try to miss long and right so that I at least have a chip shot with some space, and that left to right slope is now actually going to funnel the ball to the pin. And so immediately I'm thinking, like, where do I miss this instead of how do I make a good recovery shot and hit the green despite this bad drive?
Yeah. And I mean, this just the list of this kind of stuff just goes on and on, right? I mean, this is going to be, we're going to talk about this pretty much at all 18 holes.
Yeah, you can see the second hole back here across I-95. So let's go up to it now. And this is another very difficult hole because it's very tough to figure out what you want to do off the tee. I struggled a lot on this hole because, as we've talked about, like my advantage in a Pennsylvania Open field, something like that, is off the tee. And so I want driver in my hand as much as possible. I don't want to put driver away, hit 6-iron, leave it short of everything like in this area, and now I'm just playing a mid-iron game with everybody else in the field. Fast forward a few years, I'm a better iron player, so maybe if I went back, that is what I would do this time around. But I tried to hit driver up in front of this green, and I pulled it left into this crap both days. But notice the layup is really difficult because you have a very well-placed bunker here, and you don't necessarily want to try to fit it here because you've got enough bunkers that's guarded right, and you have this devilish little ditch on the left side before you even get to the fescue. There's just nowhere to miss. So
why do you think not more golf courses don't do like little high rough ditches like that? Like why not do something like that? I mean, that's a penalty, but you don't have people searching around. You don't have raking of a bunker by somebody. Like, why is that not used more?
I think it's because it makes things almost too penal. And this was my only criticism of Oakmont. And maybe I only had this criticism because I kept hitting it in these damn ditches, but I felt like I was having small misses off the tee, and the guys I was playing with were having big misses off the tee. And consistently, my small miss was worse than their big miss because I either found the ditch, a bunker, something, and they found rough. Now, this week, the rough is so penal that I don't think that that's going to be the case. Like, I think if you're having big misses off the tee, it's still just going to be really bad. But that was the one thing about the course that I didn't love afterwards. But again, that might have just been because I had particularly bad luck that week and found a lot of those ditches and not a lot of fairways, but it was like over and over. I had small misses. I didn't have big misses that week, but I also wasn't hitting fairways.
Gotcha. I just think that I think they look awesome. I think they're, like you said, a big penalty. You know, and you know, a lot of people put like bunkers and stuff in spots like that, and it just slows down play, you know, that kind of stuff.
Visually, it's awesome. And I would also say that I like the concept of these ditches a lot more on a hole like this, where it's adding to the strategy of the hole. A long, difficult par 4, I don't think you need it when clearly everyone's going to hit driver anyway. This way, you hit it in that ditch, like to some degree, it's your fault for picking the club that you picked because you could have stayed well short of it.
So I'm glad you went there. How many people, I mean, you've played there. I've never played it. How many people are hitting driver here?
I don't think there will be many. I do think it's going to be dependent on pin location. So let's go up to the green. You can see it's a large-ish green, but it plays even a lot smaller than it is because there's so much slope here. So if I recall correctly, I think this pin is fairly flat, and we might see drivers to this one because guys can just try to put it in like this area, and then it's a pretty simple up and down. But for example, if the pin is here, you're probably not going to see drivers because anything in this area, like the ball's just going to funnel down and down and down, might even roll down into here. So back pin, maybe we see drivers, and this pin, maybe we see drivers, but anything else, I don't think we'll see.
Do you think if the greens get super firm, like baked out super firm where they need to be hitting sand wedge, that you do see people hitting it into that weird middle gap, this little tightish area that you were talking about? Just so they can, because leaving it back here, if you're hitting 7-8 iron and the greens are super firm, even no matter where the pin is, that becomes a pretty difficult shot.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, I think this gives you like 150 to 160. So I think most of them would feel like they have enough control from there, but I don't entirely remember that distance. And your point is well made anyway, like especially if they want to turn it into a scoring hole and not a let's just try to make par. I do think we might see some guys, particularly if they think that they would survive these bunkers. They're not going to mess with this. So if they think they can take a line into here and make this the miss, and if they feel comfortable enough from those bunkers, then I think it would be possible. But it wouldn't surprise me if the vast majority we see is just laying back here with a few guys trying to take driver all the way to the green.
If that becomes the case early on, I really hope they move the tee up and make it where people do try to go for it more. I don't know if that'll happen. I would agree
with that. And another I think good point to make is it also probably depends on the wind. If there's no wind, this target becomes much bigger and much easier to hit. If there is wind, especially crosswind, they're not going to want to mess with that.
Gotcha.
Third hole, first sighting of the church pews. And once again, you get an incredibly narrow fairway that just gets more and more narrow. This is a longish hole, by the way. So you will see some guys take either long iron, 3-wood, 5-wood, something like that, and stay back in the fatter area of this fairway, leaving themselves something like 180 to 220 in. But you'll also see plenty of guys take driver, take on the church pew. Some guys will be able to go over the church pew. So they'll say like, look, either I'm going to hit the fairway or I'm going to end up in this left rough. That was my strategy. The problem is the fairway is heavily sloped right to left. So it's very hard to hit this area of the fairway. You basically need to cut it into the right center or right side of it. Otherwise, the ball's just going to kick into this left rough. It's going to be another thing to watch out for, is just how firm are the fairways. Everyone loves talking about the firmness of the greens. I think the firmness of these fairways is going to make a bigger impact on scoring, because the firmer these fairways are, I mean, when they're firm, holding some of these fairways is like diabolically difficult. And so if guys can't hit the fairway, if they can't hold the fairway, this course is just going to destroy them if they're having to play from the rough over and over and over again. That, by the way, like if we hear from anybody that this course is playing too difficult and it's unfair, I think that would be the complaint, that they're hitting good drives and it doesn't matter, the ball's going into the rough anyway.
I did notice a couple of videos I saw, even I think maybe Ben Griffin's, it looks like their first cut is wider than most first cuts. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely in some places, and that's probably for that exact reason. But I will say there are times where the ball's going in so hot that it doesn't matter, because it's not even like, it's not, sometimes the ball isn't rolling into the rough, it's bouncing into the rough, and it's just going to bounce right over that first cut if it gets really firm.
Yeah, I just that was one of my first things. And the other thing that I noticed about the rough is it, and you can tell me if this is true or not, compared to like Philadelphia Cricket Club, where you had a definite grain advantage one way or another, there it looks like it's just kind of swirls down in no matter where you're at.
Yeah, and actually you could see on some social media videos today that they're taking like rakes in the rough just to make sure that there's no instance where like the rough is just lying flat and you're going to get some balls that stay on top. They really want to mess with it and make sure that the ball finds the bottom. Another point that I think is a good one to make here is notice how seamless the transition is from fringe to green. That is because the fringes and the fairways leading up to the greens, like they are that tightly mown. We're going to see plenty of putts from off the green when guys are actually in the fairway. It's not easy to get your ball to stop in that spot, but when it is there, guys will take putter just because it's going to be that much easier to control speed from there.
It's funny you say that, because literally the first hole, the first video, I was like, you can tell I'm from the South. This is the first thing I noticed, was the transition from fairway to green being like, that fairway is probably a really good bent grass green in the South.
Yeah, definitely would be. In fact, I think I think when we played, they said the greens were rolling at 13 and the fairways were rolling at 11. And I've heard that they want or the fringes were rolling at 11. And I know they want the greens between 14 and a half and 14.9 this week. So the fringes might be at 12, 12 and a half or something like that. It's nutty.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Number 4, first par 5. And this is one of the holes where the ditch is actually one of the bigger misses. Notice like you have the church pews once again. By the way, I think this is one of the coolest things of the design. The church pews in a lot of these bunkers come into play on multiple holes, and it's not like a difficult forced fit on either of them. They perfectly frame both holes. This is also one, Justin, where you actually do get a little bit of a visual aid off the tee because the church pews and the bunkers on the right and the fairway, of course, itself are giving you that like a visual aid of what the shot shape should look like.
And the undulation plays a part in that too. I would agree. This is the first one that I've looked at where I've been like, all right, I know what I'm trying to do with my golf ball here.
Yep. I took the dumbass approach here and thought, I'm going to try to chew off as much of this fairway as possible, just because let's go back a second. It is a 570-yard par 5, and we were playing back into the wind. And so I wanted to get there in 2, but priority number 1 is get yourself in the damn fairway. I missed. Actually, I think I hit one perfect drive and then one that was just buried in one of the faces of these bunkers. I had no chance. But this is a very real scoring opportunity, probably the best scoring opportunity on the entire course. There's not a whole lot to the green complex, but notice once again just how narrow it gets. And also, it's a little bit difficult to see from back here. Like it's kind of a blind approach where you know where you're going, but it's hidden from this bunker. And then also you maybe can't see it great in this screenshot here, but from this point on, it's downhill. So you know the general direction that you're trying to hit, but like whether you're going at the flag or at the edge of the bunker, at the left edge of the green, or missing right, you can't quite tell from the fairway. So you got to do your homework, and you and your caddy have to do a good job of picking a target out in the distance that actually puts you exactly where you want it to be. But if you pull off a good drive, great opportunity to score. And it's another one where you have to be very cognizant of where the flag is to know where your miss should be coming in. Because if you miss in the wrong spot, you're going to have no chance to get up and down. But if you miss in the right spot, it actually is one of the more straightforward greens.
So I've got a question, and I haven't heard. I know there was different talks going on about how they were going to rake their bunkers, whether they're going to be flat or sloped to the middle of the bunker. Have you heard any more of what they're doing with that?
No, I think what they're going to do is what they tend to always do, though. You can see it a little bit in this picture where they don't rake the lips of the bunkers because they like the lips of the bunker to be really, really firm. And the ball is supposed to just hit there and find its level down at the bottom where they actually rake it. My guess is that's what they'll do here. I think the only way they would deviate is if they've gotten so much rain that it's actually like softened the sand and they're worried about the ball plugging. But they also might say, it's the US Open, let the ball plug, we don't care.
Yeah, well, I mean, I noticed that they said they were going to stop making like the center of the bunker kind of the low point and keep it really flat to where that makes it where they roll into these lips a lot more, right? They're not coming out of that lip. They're not going to be plugged. They're just not coming all the way back to, a fairly easy bunker shot per se.
That would just add another element of difficulty. One other thing I want to point out here is I think this is another thing that Oakmont does really well in its design, and that is a lot of these greens, they have so many different pin locations, but no matter what the pin location is, the green plays smaller than it is. So if you have a front pin, your green is basically like this right here. If you have a back pin, your green is that right there. And so think of a pin that's actually, this is a great one right here. It looks like you have this much room, but if you're left of this flag, you're in the bunker, right? Yeah. You're not covering that. So all of these greens play smaller than they are, and they're just beautifully sectioned in the way that they're designed.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much the going talk is this place is just so well designed.
Yeah. Another very good hole here, the fifth. It's only 382, so this is a scoring opportunity. I think we'll see plenty of irons off the tee, especially if the fairway's firm and they can just land it here and chase it all the way down. I did see Bryson took a driver in one of his practice rounds and just took it to the end. It was very cold, and I think the wind was probably blowing in on this hole, so it's only, I think, like 310 through it, but he was able to hit driver and then had a wedge in. But this is one of the scoring opportunities. But, I mean, look how small this green is. And there's so much undulation. Like anything in here is falling off down there. Anything here is falling off down there. I'm surprised there's even a pin here because I thought that the back left would be unplayable as well with everything just rolling off. We had pins like here, here, and here. They didn't even mess with this side because I just thought this didn't even exist, that everything over here was just off the green. But, I mean, you can see just how narrow this green is. And, again, it looks tiny. It plays even smaller.
And then if you miss right, you're not making a par. So, like, everybody's going to be hitting it down there. So, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, so not only is everything sloping that way, but you can't – you have to hit it.
One of the guys in my group hit it in this fescue over here, left one in the bunker, went through into this bunker, went back through into this bunker, then hit it to, like, the bottom and two-putted for whatever that was, an 8, 9, whatever. It was hard to watch, but – that's going to happen because, I mean, that's not even like a massive miss, right? Especially if you weren't in a great spot off the tee and the wind is blowing. So I think we will see guys try to push it to the end of this fairway just because they know that if they're leaving themselves 160 yards, 180 yards, like this target is tiny. They want a wedge, not just for the scoring opportunity, but because giving themselves a wedge is also by far the best opportunity to avoid bogey.
And just like a tidbit too for your short, like the shorter guys that finally get to hit a wedge here, anything like me, and I know I'm kind of the norm in this, is we love to hook our wedges. And so this is this is terrible for us, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, you can ask even Tiger, like when he was playing his best, he would be like, yeah, like low draws with the wedges are the best. I mean, Zach Johnson made a very good living doing it. Most shorter guys that are really good wedge players love to hook their wedges, and you can't do it here.
Yeah, not on this hole. Number 6, we've got a par 3. It's not the most difficult par 3. It's not the longest par 3. This is just like, honestly, this is one of the more benign holes. But again, a lot of places where it's just not a good miss. You also get a false front here. You get a very hard right to left. And you can make some really difficult pin positions. Like if the pin is here, guys are just going to try to hit the green in this area, but you're going to get plenty that roll off. You're going to get plenty that go long. You're going to get some that fan it out to the right. And now that's a really difficult up and down. So even the most benign par 3 on the course, there's a lot to it, and it's very easy to make bogey.
Yeah, I mean, this is just, I mean, all par 3s are hard. They're just harder in the U.S. Open. So it's just, you know, I mean, it's just what it's kind of.
This is a good view from up above. For one thing, you can see how much the land is running away from us from this view, but also the green itself. Like it's kind of flat in this area, and then it's just down, 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 straight down. So it's interesting, especially when the pin is on the right. Like, and actually, even when the pin is in this area, the miss is probably left because if you're here, it's going to be so difficult to actually stop that ball. But there's nothing pretty about left. That's a deepish bunker, tough bunker, thick rough. So again, like this is one of those holes where it's very straightforward in the sense you have to hit a good iron shot and then just make your 2-putt. But just because it's straightforward doesn't make it any simpler.
And I think this is a prime example of showing like firmness, especially and speed of greens means so much to making this difficult.
Yes.
Because if it's a soft bent grass green that's not that fast, you can make a par in these conditions from anywhere. Yep. You get firm and fast, and you got spots you can hit it in that you can't hit it on the green.
That's what Ben On said today on Twitter. He was asking, or he answered a question of like, what makes it so hard? And he said, look, the rough is about what it was at Memorial. I think by the time the tournament starts, it'll be even more difficult than that. But the green speeds were playable in his words, which basically says like, look, they're borderline from being so fast that it's unplayable. But there are just a number of spots where the greens have so much undulation and they're so well designed where they kind of funnel you into these bad spots where you can have chip shots where you know there's no chance that I even hold the green here. And this is one of those bunkers where it can get dicey, especially to a front pin. Like I think when we see the pin up, guys who are in this right bunker, they might even play to like this area of the green and not go at this pin just so it's a little bit flatter and they have a better chance of holding it and then try to 2-putt for 4.
And then you have to hit a really good shot just to hit it there. Like you're not just like playing it safe and be like, oh, this is easy. Like I'm gonna hit it over here.
Yeah, number 7. Now we start to get into the longer par 4s. This still isn't crazy long, 435. By the way, like I think this is one of the things that I will say. Everybody, once again, is going to talk about distance at this golf course. I think that we might see a move, not necessarily away from the predictive value of distance. Distance is going to be super predictive here. But I think we might see a massive spike in the predictive value of driving accuracy, especially our strokes gained driving accuracy metric. Because number 1, where you miss is clearly incredibly important. But then also like so many of these holes are just infinitely easier from the fairway. Bryson in his preview where he played all 18 holes, did a really good job of like talking through the shots, was reading putts with his caddy. So if you haven't watched that, I suggest watching it. This flyover that we're looking at is every hole at Oakmont from Golf Digest. Again, you can find that on YouTube. Very much recommend both of these. But Bryson at one point did say with these fairways, like it's going to be driver, get as close to the green as you can with rough or with the rough like this. And I think that that's right. But there are going to be guys who hit a lot of these fairways, who are driving the ball well. And I think those guys are just going to be at such an advantage that driving accuracy is going to be an overlooked skill here as people go a little bit too overboard chasing distance.
Just from what I've seen so far, I would tend to agree because I see a lot of holes where these cross bunkers are maybe about where I would hit driver to, and a lot of people are going to be hitting, long irons or 3-woods even to the same area. I still think
Justin, not only that, but like we talked at Philly Cricket, for example, on how a number of the bunkers were carryable for the longer guys. And so they could make these they can make certain holes play shorter because they're cutting a dogleg or something like that, but they can also make holes play wider. A lot of the bunkering here at Oakmont, there are layers to it. So like, if the shorter hitter could just get to this first bunker, it doesn't mean the longer hitter can carry the second bunker. Same thing on the right side. And it's also one of those instances where like, just because you carry the bunker doesn't mean you're going into anywhere good on these holes. So I think the challenge off the tee is much more similar for the long and short hitters than it was at a place like Philly Cricket.
Yeah, I would, from what I see so far, I would tend to agree.
Another just diabolical green. You can kind of see there are like 3 sections to it. You've got this front section, which almost looks like the fringe here, but this is fringe. Then you get the green, then a middle section that runs hard to the right, and then a back tier that is incredibly narrow. You can see it actually looks like almost a false front from this view, but at the back. But no, this is level. That's running away from you, and then everything is going hard left to right throughout the entire hole. So another one that it, once again, plays smaller, it plays more narrow than it actually is, and just another really challenging par 4.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the whole place, right? Kind of the same idea of like it doesn't ever let up on you.
Yeah. Then we get number 8. Here on Golf Digest, it says 252-yard par 3. They're actually playing it at like 293. So you can see here, this is the 253 tee box. This is where we played it from. Justin, I can't even tell you where they're playing from. Did they build a new tee box that I don't know about? I don't know what they did, but I don't know how it's playing 293, but it's playing 293, and it almost looks like a short par 4 where I think this is another just like beautiful design element. Enough guys are going to try to land the ball in this area and have it run on. So this is just a perfectly, beautifully placed bunker. The way it juts out into the landing area, but also leaves enough room before the front of the green where guys can still land the ball short and have it bounce on. I love this hole. It was incredibly difficult from 250. 293 is just absurd.
I mean, I saw today, Min Woo Lee said he hit driver flag high. Listen, if Min Woo Lee is hitting driver flag high, they will not be playing it from that tee box.
Do you think there's a chance with any pin location that we will see somebody just purposely hit it to here and try to wedge it on and say, I think I can make a 3 from there. I'm not going to make more than 4. Whereas if they try to hit the green, like if you're trying to hit the green from 293 and you have driver in your hand, or even if you think that you can hit a hard 3-wood there, look at some of these like possible misses. You've got left into the ditch. You've got long into this back bunker. But I mean, this ditch, like it's right there. If
I
you
think
miss
it
right,
depends on the carry to that. I think it depends on the carry of that bunker. The only time I think I would see anybody laying up to the right is if they knew they couldn't get it over that like corner lip right there, like say it was way into the wind. If they couldn't cover that, then I think you would see somebody hit it over there to the right. Outside of that, it just looks like everybody's going to just try to squeeze the draw up there. And, you know, the worst miss is going to be in that right rough. I think you'll see a lot more right than you will left.
I think you're right. I think you're right. Maybe to a back left pin, they would want to make sure they actually had an angle to it. But to your point, like, okay, then this is a fine miss. So why not just blast it down the right side? So I think you're probably right, but it wouldn't shock me if we see someone like Russell Henley might do it because he trusts his wedge game so much and obviously isn't the longest hitter. But let's move on. Number 9. If I recall correctly, I think Bryson said that this was the most difficult hole on the course. This, to me, was the most unfair ditch. You have a 480-yard hole. It's uphill. It's well guarded by bunkers on the right. You don't need such a penalizing miss just off the left fairway. I thought I hit a perfect drive and was in, like, I mean, I hit it left center into this area of the ditch and was just totally screwed, made double, and I felt like I hit a perfect drive. So that's one that has stuck with me. But the ditch is there for everybody. They all have to avoid it. So
it's a par 4, right? I think the video said par 5.
It did say par 5. No, this place is a par 4.
Okay,
but it will play from 480. Like they're not going to move the tees.
Yeah, I figured it, but when you said it's the most difficult hole, I was like, that's kind of weird. 480-yard par 5. Like you don't hear that very often. Which is funny, like the mindset of a golfer. Mm-hmm. If it was a 480-yard par 5, everybody would be like, man, I expect to make birdie here. This is my chance to get one back. Mm-hmm. But then if it's a par 4, everybody's like, this is stupid hard.
If I recall correctly, the scoring average in the State Open, which it played as a par 4 in the State Open, I think it was like 5.2. So even at a par 5, it would have been playing over par and not a birdie hole. But yeah, I mean, you're 100% correct there. This is one of those where you just have to sack up, hit a good drive, and then try to do it again on the approach shot. It is not an easy green.
Oh, it's a part of the putting green.
Yes, I was going to say this looks like.
Is it a cool? Did you like it? Did you like it? Was it a cool bid or is it?
It was cool. I will say, like, more so than you can tell from this picture, I did feel like it was clearly putting green and actual green, and not that there was like blurred lines between the two. Although in this picture, I can't really.
No, you can't. There's no distinction.
Yeah, I wonder if we. Okay, here you get a better view, so you can actually see there's like a bit of a rectangular line here.
Yeah.
Everything back here is putting green. You can also get a better sense of like just how massive this space is from this view. I also think I recall that they had the flag mostly up front for the first 2 days, so that play was as far away from the putting green anyway. But yeah,
they're having blue stakes. They have like blue stakes in the middle of the green that like if you're practicing, you can't go beyond or whatever.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, you can kind of get a sense there, but yeah, I mean, it's another really difficult hole, and also you can't quite tell, but like everything runs pretty hard left to right here. So this left miss, you just can't make it. If this is the pin, you've got to miss here. If the pin's anywhere else, like then you can miss left, but even then, it's not going to be an easy up and down.
Yeah, I don't think there's such thing as an easy up and down at this place.
Right, and let's also remember that you might be coming in from a bunker or the ditch from 200 yards out in a difficult wind, still going uphill, which means good luck controlling where you miss. You might not be in control of where you miss.
I think you'll see a lot more people just lay up from dumb spots. That's where I think, like you were talking about on the par 3, like they're just going to hit it to 80 yards and take their chances.
Yeah, or I mean, that's why this bunker is well placed. So if you're laying up, like you can't just if this was the view, you'd say, oh, just hit something low that chases up to here. You can't do that because of the bunker. You actually have to stay back to like 80 yards. So great call there. Let's move on to 10. 10 is another difficult hole. Shockingly, they are all difficult. There we go. Another one where it's actually I don't think you can tell from this from this view, from the tee box, you can't see these bunkers. This bunker looks like it's the left side of the fairway. So it looks like if you hit the ball on this line, like you can use this thing here in the distance as a visual aid. It looks like if you hit it at that, you're at the left edge of the fairway. You are not. I learned this by thinking I hit a fantastic drive and was plugged in the lip of this bunker, plugged in the lip of this bunker, had absolutely nothing, made a very good bogey, I think, if I recall correctly. And that was my opening tee shot of the event, by the way. But even on the right side, like if you chase something, it's going to go into those bunkers. Really, really difficult tee shot. And then like the first hole, the green runs hard away from you and to the back left. So every up and down opportunity is also super tough.
Yeah, I mean, like normal conditions here, like being just in the rough, probably isn't that bad. If these guys truly can't hardly advance it, like, because when I say that, the rough's 3 inches and I hit it in the rough, even if I've got, 190 or 200, I can hit a flyer 7-iron that just kind of tumbles up through there and gets up in the neck. I don't, like in their conditions, I don't think you can even do that.
Well, one of the problems there is it's too fast in here. You can't hit 7-iron and think that you're going to stop the ball here. You're going to stop the ball in the rough, the bunker, or the rough back here, but it's not going to stop anywhere on short grass.
It just goes forever through all that.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to tell here in this picture, but this is severely sloped downhill still, even though it doesn't look as far downhill as like this part of the fairway, but you're still moving pretty good downhill all the way through here.
And then if you fly it too short, you probably pitch it into that upslope and it just stops, and then you've got just as hard, if not harder, shot.
Yeah, from down in there, it's no good. Number 11, it looks like you get a little bit of reprieve on this hole, except, oh, look, there's a ditch that cuts weirdly through the fairway. This is also a very severe uphill slope. You can kind of see it from this tee box. Not really, but everything runs off to the right. So like to hit the fairway, you have to get it up top and probably in this leftish section over there. Everything over here is probably going to that right rough. Unless you want to lay all the way back to this flatter area, but now you have a semi-blind approach to a tiny green from longer than you'd like. We don't need to say every hole is difficult, but again, really difficult hole.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, there's just nowhere that you're like, all right, I can take a shot off. I know I'm going to hit this in the fairway. I know I'm going to make a par. Yeah,
agreed. Then we get to the massive, massive number 12. I believe it's playing more like 630 or 642, not 602, but it honestly doesn't even really matter that much. This is one of the easier fairways to hit. And it's also one where you do get a little bit of a visual. Very, very helpful to hit a cut on this hole because you don't have to carry it fully past these bunkers. If you hit a draw and land at left center, you might chase through into those bunkers. If you hit a cut into the left center, it will bounce and roll down to the right. The only problem is it can hit this like speed slot and end up in the rough down here. So it's not like this was one where I thought I hit a perfect drive and I did end up down in this right rough and was extremely disappointed by that.
Yeah, it's just a hard tee shot. I mean, how many people are going to even be able to reach here?
I think that even DJ didn't reach in any of the days here when he won. I think we will see some guys try, and we will see some guys with the distance. Whether anyone actually hits the green, I don't know. It also, of course, depends on wind conditions and the firmness of the greens and the firmness of the fairways and whether the ball's holding in the fairway when you hit the big one down the right side. But I mean, another spot where just like,
does anybody hit? So the reason I asked, does anybody hit like 2-iron, 5-iron sand wedge or anything? Do you see anybody doing that?
Yeah, I think that is very much within play. But notice you have ditch on the right, ditch on the left, intrusive bunker here, well bunkered there. Like this isn't an easy layup by any means. So maybe you'd see someone hit to this area and then try to keep it short of this, so you're going into there. But now like you're going to have a really weird lie if it settles down into here. It might be semi-blind. If it runs through into the rough, like, and now you're not hitting the green in 3 from that spot. So that would be really risky. But there isn't a good layup either. So maybe you hit a good drive and then just say, all right, I'm now close enough that I feel like I'm not going to hit it right into that ditch or left into this one, and I can just find the fairway in front of that bunker.
Yeah.
But that's why we will see guys try it, because a layup is still risky. So you might as well try to get as close to the green as possible. And then what a narrow, difficult green this is too. And I mean, talk about a green playing even more narrow than it is. The way this bunker protrudes in, the way this bunker protrudes in, like, sure, from this edge to that edge seems somewhat wide, but I mean, look how narrow it is from there to there. Like, it's just crazy. And then through the green, I don't know if we'll get a good view. It's a steep drop off. So like you would think, oh, long through this green isn't bad, except you end up, 6 feet below the surface of the green and maybe 4 feet below the surface of the green and in that thick, disgusting rough. So it's so tough. Like there's no rest on any shot. It's not just that every hole is tough. Every shot is difficult.
Yeah, I mean, if the rough is like they're saying it's gonna be, there's no spots to hit it. And the other thing is, what makes it even more difficult is, the really good players know how to play out of it, but they don't play out of this enough to be comfortable. I think if you saw more events like this, I think you would see everybody adjust a little bit better. They just don't play out of it enough.
Yeah, agreed. I think anyone who played Memorial will be happy to have played Memorial because it won't feel as bad. Cough, cough, Rory. Maybe not the best decision, but
yeah.
Par 3, number 13. Another one where, I mean, look at the shape of this green. Like, if the pin is here, that's your width. If it's there, that's your width. What this does is it puts a massive, massive emphasis on your distance control. To be accurate on this hole, it's not enough to be left-right accurate. You have to nail the distance as well if you want to hit this green. And these are deep, brutal bunkers. You need to hit this green to have a good chance at par. But if you do hit this green, there's a good chance you have a nice look at birdie.
So I've been waiting pretty much the whole segment to talk about this. When we were playing and we got on firm, fast greens, nothing like they're playing. Mm-hmm. We generally wanted to know our front number. Mm-hmm. The problem with holes like this is there are more than one front numbers depending on where the flag is. And that's pretty common with a lot of these greens. So you can't just say, oh, it's 172 hole, right? The pin's in the middle. It's 160. It's 160 front, well, or 158 front. Well, that's, if you hit it to 158 front, you're probably not getting to the green on the line you're looking. So you'll hear a lot of players and their caddies talking about cover numbers. Yeah,
like if you're saying that it's 158 to here and you hit it here, that's not covering, that's kicking down into the bunker. So really solid point. And I mean, this is just such a beautifully shaped green. And by the way, you don't totally get that from the tee box, right? It looks like that's your green. It's fairly straightforward. And then you get up there and it's like, oh, there's this weird diagonal tongue. And they put flags here. I think 2 of the 3 were in this area for the State Open. So I'm sure they'll be using this area of the green, which to me makes it an even better hole because now you're going to see plenty of guys in these bunkers trying to hit just perfect shots. You have to clip it perfectly and use the backstop just to get the ball to hold the green. So that's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, you got to use a little imagination. It's always good.
The highlight of my Pennsylvania Open, without question, at Oakmont came here on number 14, 358. I think one of the days they moved it up to like 340, and I drove it to about 8 feet and made the eagle putt. This is one of the just like coolest aesthetic holes that you will ever see. The bunkering is beautiful. And then look how narrow this little strip is. So the pin was pretty much right in this spot. I hit it like just inside this line. And I think I got really lucky that the ball bounced over this rough and settled just like perfectly in front of the pin. But awesome golf hole. I hope that we see guys going for it and not just staying back and wedging it. They are so good with their wedges that we might see it. But based on the wind, this hole was downwind and from our right. I think Bryson played it into the wind because he hit driver and went too far. And he was like up on one of the faces in this rough, and it was just a brutal spot. So if guys go for it, we will see some really strange lies, some really difficult shots around the green. If they're just laying back and hitting wedge, it'll play a little bit more boring, but it's still just a gorgeous, gorgeous short par 4.
Yeah. They need more short par 4s like this, I think, that are risk reward, because it's going to be it's a huge risk for a hole that doesn't have a bunch of hazards all over, right? There's not OB and water.
Yeah. I mean, when you think of like the best drivable par 4s in the world, you think of the 13th at Quail Hollow, you think of 17 at Sawgrass, 16 or I mean at Scottsdale, 16,
17 Scottsdale.
You think of holes where the difference between like a great shot and you're in the water is a few yards. Like you said, there's no water here, but it's still a heavy risk reward hole, because when you go for the green, what you sacrifice is the ability to control your miss. At Scottsdale, at Quail Hollow, you can bail out to the right and say, all right, my miss is going to leave myself a 40-yard difficult but straightforward pitch shot. You don't get that option here. If you miss, you're hoping you end up in a good spot. You're hoping you have a chance to get up and down, but there isn't a bailout area when you take this on, which I think is why we will see plenty of guys lay up. But man, I hope conditions and setup entice guys to go for it as much as possible, because this becomes just an incredible, incredible golf hole.
If it truly ends up playing as hard as they're saying it does, I think you'll see a lot more people go for it, because they're going to think, even if I hit it in a really bad spot, I can get it to 40 or 50 feet and 2-putt for par.
Well, and to that point, like if the pin is tucked to the right like this and you have a wedge, it's still really hard to get that close, right? So like you're probably just playing out to here and taking your 2-putt par. If guys do want opportunities to make birdie, especially if they feel like they need to make a birdie, this is definitely a hole where you can do that if you pull off the tee shot.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right, let's see. Next, we get 15, another one where you get church pews. It looks fantastic. I felt like the fairway was a little bit too penal, where I hit 2 great drives and ended up in the right rough both times, and it's just too long and difficult a hole to be playing out of the rough. To Oakmont's defense, though, maybe that's on me for trying to hit a cut into this fairway instead of shaping a draw back into the fairway, which is why I think guys like Scotty, who can shape the ball either direction with confidence, do have an advantage, because it makes holding these fairways a lot easier.
Yeah, you got some definition here, and I think that's probably to your credit here. It looks like you should be shaping a cut up there. Like this is probably the second most definition I've seen out of any of the holes we've seen yet.
Well, I've got bad news for you. You would not have definition, because from the tee box you can't see the church pews. You can't see the green. It just looks like an infinity pool of fairway. So yeah, it's even tougher than you thought.
Yeah, from that view right there, I'm like, oh look, we got some definition. But yeah, if you can't see it, then it doesn't do any good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wish I could like tilt the screen to show you what it looks like in the tee box.
Show how bad it is.
It's not fun. You just think, all right, well, all of this area looks like it would be a good shot, but no, you actually have like maybe 3 yards across of what is actually a good shot, instead of getting caught up here, going through and into the right rough. But like I said, maybe it does play wider if you shape a draw into it, which I didn't even try to do because I don't hit draws off the tees. Another
the church views, and you got a bad lie. You can't even hit it in the fairway.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, to me, like that's what the church pews do, by the way, is if we just had these like big fairway bunkers, you'd hear the same thing over and over from players. It's better to be in the bunker than the rough. What the church pews allow is for these bunkers to be as much of or even more of a penalty than the rough itself when it's grown out like this. So I think they're awesome, not just visually, but they add an element of difficulty and strategy to this golf course, where guys can't just say, left bunker's fine, I'll take on the left side.
Yeah, it's a 1.5 shot penalty instead of a 1 shot penalty.
Yeah. I love this bunkering down the right side. You can see just how big this is. You also can't really see the left bunker from this view. It looks like there's just this tiny bunker. But from this side, you can see, okay, there is a big, fairly deep bunker on that side as well. So another one where pin location determines which side you want to miss on. But there isn't a good miss on this hole because there's so much undulation in these greens running this way that there's just not really anything you can do. You can also get a very good sense of just how tilted this fairway is from the view from back here.
It looks like one big green. You can't even see the green and the fairway difference.
Yeah, fairway starts like right about there. But I would also say that like everything back here, I don't think is green because I think everything back here just runs off.
I was going to say, it looks like a big false back edge.
Yep. Next, we get a super challenging par 3. I will actually say that I think there's a very good chance that number 16 plays even more difficult than number 8. There's just a little bit more to the actual green complex. And it's another one where like this looks like a pretty big green, but it's pretty severely sloped here. So like one thing that you think from the tee box is, okay, I have to stay a little bit left of my target because it's going to bounce hard to the right. But then the small pull puts you in this diabolical bunker. So you kind of have to take on this bunker, but now the ball can roll through. And like there's just no good answer to this hole. This green is super difficult. Everything's running hard this way and off that way. You get a bit of a flat section here, but you can't miss back in there. That's totally dead. So no good misses. This front right bunker is probably the best miss, and it's probably going to be by far the most common miss, but it's not an easy up and down by any means from that spot. So I think we'll see plenty of bogeys here.
Yeah, firmness matters too. Like let's see how firm they really get it, because you'll be able to see more chasing up to that front left center, and that's where they're gonna try to hit it, I would imagine, and then two putt from there.
Yeah. You get a bit of a sense of the undulation of the green from this view. You can also see there's like a little bit of a swale in the middle of this green, which, as if a 230-yard par 3 that's well guarded on all sides isn't difficult enough. Like, oh, there's this little difficult wrinkle when you actually hit it into the middle of the green too. So it becomes very difficult to make putts on this green, which is why, like, I think at least one of the days I remember all of us missed the green, all of us chipped to 8 feet, all of us missed the putt and weren't even close on the actual par saving attempt. It was like, well, I don't really know what happened there, but it was pretty simple bogey, I guess. You also get a very good sense from this view of just how hard everything is running that way, which is why this is so tough.
And that's not even in U.S. Open conditions, right? I feel like a lot of these holes are like, oh, I just made an easy bogey and I added them up and I shot 82. And that's not in U.S. Open conditions. That's like normal play.
I think I shot 82 on the first day. So exactly what you just said. We get another phenomenal short par 4. Both 14 and 17 are scoreable. This one's 313. This one, we will pretty much see everyone go for the green. This picture doesn't do justice to how deep this bunker is or how narrow this green is. I was in this greenside bunker the first day, and I remember thinking, can I hold the green with this bunker shot? The wind was blowing down and from the right, so that's part of why it was so hard to hold it, but it's so far above your head, and it's a really narrow green. But it's a very good birdie, even an eagle opportunity, if you pull off the tee shot, land in this area, and have it bounce onto the green, especially with a little cut that just kind of funnels this way to whatever pin location they choose. So we will see scoring here. We will also see 5s, even some 6s from guys who don't hit a good shot, end up in a really bad spot, and just have trouble finding the green surface from 30 yards away because of how thick the rough is, how deep the bunker is, whatever.
Yeah. Fun. I mean, at least this is the element of fun to the golf course, right? That you have to have. I think this is what makes Oakmont better than a lot of the other golf courses, is at least we have a couple of holes that give the element of fun and we can see exciting stuff happen.
As we go through all of this, can we just talk? How the hell did Shane Lowry shoot? What was it, 7 under to take the lead going into the final round? Like, where did that even come from on this golf course? That's an absurd round. And I will say, the higher ups at Oakmont are going to make damn sure that doesn't happen again this year.
Yeah, and they're going to do that with the firmness. I think I really think that if they want to be aggressive and get this thing firm, we're going to see some guys that don't hit it very high really struggle.
They're definitely going to try to make it firm. I think that's just up to Mother Nature. We will see some guys, by the way, lay back with an iron and try to hit a wedge into here. But notice how small and narrow this green is. Like, that is not an easy wedge shot by any stance. Among guys who do lay up, we will still see a fair amount miss the green with their wedge and make 5 or 6 because of it.
Yeah, I think that the interesting element here is if it's into the wind and they lay up, it actually makes the wedge shot a lot easier, not a lot harder. Mm-hmm. So I think that if you get even the slightest of breeze in, anybody that's kind of in between will lay up.
It's probably a good call there. Number 18, great finishing hole. Another just well-framed fairway by these bunkers. And you've got ditch down the right as a big miss, ditch down the left as a somewhat small miss, but it's at least a bigger miss than these bunkers. So I can handle this ditch, no problem being there. And I do think it adds visually to the hole. And then you get just another uphill, super difficult approach to a diabolical green. Very many sections. You've got a section here. You've got this back section, a back left section. Ball doesn't really stop anywhere in this area. It just funnels. So really, really tough finishing hole too.
Yeah, I hope they put the pin a few years back. They put it like it was kind of like a low spot where you could get some balls tumbling kind of towards it. I don't remember where it was. Was it middle right maybe? Mm-hmm. And they did it. I like it. I like it when you can make a birdie or a bogey on the last hole pretty easily. And this hole tends to be hang on for dear life, just make a par and get in the house.
I'm guessing that was this location here. And to your point, like you can hit the ball into this area, have it funnel to the hole. But if you miss slightly, this putt is super tough to get close. If you're a little bit long, that putt is an absolute nightmare. If you don't quite reach, it's coming down off this false front. So to your point, like you can get it to a point where it's funneling, but it's not a huge miss that actually puts you in a really bad spot where you're now having a lot of trouble making 4.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be fun. We'll see. I hope it's like I said, everybody loves carnage. I don't know why we like it so much, but we do.
I think we just like seeing these guys tested in a way that we relate to more than the challenge being hit it to 15 feet as often as you can and make as many 15-footers as you can.
Yeah, and I often wonder if they took like par and plus minus out of it and just counted your strokes as you go. If our view would be different.
I don't think so, because I think to me it's more about like the separation between what a great shot looks like and what a bad shot looks like. We talk about high leverage shots all the time. And on those easy, like birdie fest golf courses, you just don't get as many high leverage shots because the difference between a good shot and a bad shot is 15 feet versus 30 feet and not, you just hit the green on 13, the par 3, and now you have a 10-footer for birdie versus a miss that would have been 25 feet from the pin, kicked down into a super deep bunker, and now you have a brutal little bunker shot to hit.
The definition of high leverage shot was Ryan Fox in the playoff. That's our definition of high leverage right there.
100%. All right, let's talk some DFS here. I do really want to talk about pricing because this is one of the craziest pricing decisions I've ever seen. So first of all, let's talk a little about what DraftKings actually did. The pricing looks like $14,400 for Scottie Scheffler, a big drop to 12.4 for Rory, 11.0 for Bryson, which I think that's a mistake. I think he's going to be pretty popular because he should be closer to Rory, if not even ahead of Rory. But then essentially what they said is because we have Scottie at 14.4, we're going to move so much of the $9,000, $10,000 range way down. So they left Xander and Rahm above 10K. They left Colin at 9.8, Oberg 9.6, Kentley 9.3, JT 9. But whereas we usually have like 15 to 20 golfers between, let's say, 8,500 and 10,000, now it's like only a handful. And they just then skip right. They went 8,800, 8,600, 85, 82, 8,000. Think about how many guys we usually see in the 8,000s. It might be 25, 30 guys in a field like this. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys total in the $8,000 range. So most of those guys instead are Lowry at 78, Straka at 77, Corey Connors at 73. Like, it's just super, super strange. And the major effect that it has is that Scotty's 14.4 is not anywhere near as price prohibitive as 14.4 should be. So I think he's still going to be really popular. But it does mean that some of these other elite guys could really slip through the cracks because Scotty is very easy to fit now. Bryson looks like a tremendous value at $11,000. So I don't know what the play is going to be up top until we get some actual ownership projections, but I also think Rahm at 10.2 could end up being very popular after his performance at the PGA Championship and knowing how important driving is going to be here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree at all. It's just at this point, after watching what Scotty Scheffler's doing, it's just how do you see him not contending? Like, what is the pathway to him not being talked about on Sunday?
I almost feel like it's almost guaranteed that he's going to be in contention. And it's not just how well he's playing. I think Morikawa said it today, like, he's just playing so much smarter than everybody else. He doesn't make mental mistakes. And you add the fact that he doesn't make mental mistakes to the fact that he has, like, by far the tightest shot dispersion of anyone on tour. It just means you don't get the big mistakes thrown around that just totally, like, take a guy off their game. His big mistakes turn into almost making par, but instead making bogey. Like, he's just a robot in that way. And on a golf course like this, that might be the most valuable skill of all. So yeah, I think he's going to be in it almost no matter what.
And I also so I'm in the minority here, but I think if your weakness is putting, which I think everybody would agree that Scotty Scheffler's weakness is putting, I think the more undulated and the faster the greens, the better that is for a guy that's not a great putter.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you add that in. And to your point, like, the 7,000 range is obnoxious by DraftKings. Well, I mean, I have no idea what they're thinking.
I think that might be the most important part of the slate because Lowry, Straka, even Hatton, Spieth, Henley, Corey Connors for sure, they're all going to be popular. I think Lowry, Straka, Connors is like the guaranteed chalk. This does a couple things. Number one, it means you almost have to start your decision of like, okay, if I'm using Scotty, I know that the most common clicks right after that are Lowry, Straka, Connors. So if I'm going Scotty, do I go to that crew? Because for one thing, like, I do think that those guys are the most mispriced players on the slate. So they have a much higher probability than other guys around them. But if you go there, like, now you only have 2 roster spots to separate from the field with, and they're your cheapest, lowest upside guys that you're now asking to help you separate. So, like, to me, that seems like a losing lineup. But then where are you differentiating? Are you deviating off of Scotty to be different? Or are you deviating off of the high probability value guys to be different? If I had to guess right now, like, I would say core play for me is going to be Keegan Bradley because I don't think he's going to get the same ownership as those other guys, but I think he's equally as priced, at least from an upside perspective.
Yeah, but I mean, even go lower. Like, everybody loves recency bias, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sam Burns, 7,100. Think he's going to get any love? Going to get a ton,
Yep.
I would guess.
Yep.
Cam Young, 6,500 is going to get – is that the most popular play on the slate? Do more people start Scheffler, Cam Young than any two in the –
No, I think Lowry, Straka, Connors will all be higher owned, both with and without Scotty.
Then Cam Young. I just thought, like, when I saw it, I was like, man, so many people are going to start, especially with Pendrith down there too. Like, there's just so many guys. down in that range that make them 7,500, and we have choices to be made, right? But at 6,500, they're just, I mean, it's just out of line. Johnny Vegas 5,700, like that. To your point, it makes it easy to. You almost can fit a Scotty and a Schauffele or an Oberg or somebody in that range if you want to.
So I said there were what? Five guys between 8,000 and 9,000 guys. There are 51 in the $6,000 range. 51 players in the $6,000 range, which is part of why I don't think Cam Young will get that popular, but I do think he's going to be one of the chalkiest options in that range. Just he can't get to where Straka, Lowry, Connors are because there are way too many guys in that range. So it's going to be spread out at least to some degree.
The first guy that stood out to me of being like, this guy can compete in these situations and go overlooked was Cam Smith.
Oh, that's an interesting call.
He hits the ball to the moon. He has the right demeanor. Nobody is going to play him. He's going to be super low owned.
Wait, who did you say?
Cam Smith.
He hits the ball to the moon?
Oh, yeah, with his irons. To the moon with his irons.
Interesting. Okay. I didn't know that. When you said he hits the ball to the moon, I thought maybe you said Cam Davis and I misheard you. But
no, Cam Smith hits it super high with his irons. Like the only reason I know is because we talked about it with Bowditch one day, and that was what he worked the hardest on. Now, I don't know how it portrays in like with him being on Live and if they even measure that with him, but he has the ability to hit it as high with his irons as anybody.
I wonder if I can find apex height anywhere on the PGA Tour's website.
So and he has the right demeanor. He chips good. He's a great putter. And 7,200 with Corey Connors, Bradley, Finau right above him.
Yeah.
Henley right above him. Burns right below him. Wyndham Clark right below him. Like he is going to go supremely overlooked.
Yeah, I mean, he's not the same guy that he was, but maybe he finds that form. He is still near the top in both our strokes gained around the green and putting estimates. So the path is there. I just like my issue with Cam Smith is how the heck is he going to hit these fairways? He can't hit any fairways.
Yeah, but if nobody can hit him, what does it matter?
But some guys will.
If it plays as firm as they're saying, and the way that what I just saw in that flyover, can somebody go out there and hit? I mean, you tell me what's the most fairways one guy? I mean, it's going to be Scotty. What's the most fairways Scotty's going to hit in one round? 10?
That's a good question, but 8? I think I'll answer it with kind of what I was going to say anyway, which is I think it's very easy to think about like 6 or 7 of these par 4 5s and really focus in on them and how difficult it's going to be for everybody to hit those fairways. But there are also a handful of holes where it's not easy to hit the fairways, but a good shot will hit the fairway. Just point blank period, a good shot will hit the fairway.
And those are the holes where you have to give
yourself birdie opportunities. Those are the holes where you can't give strokes back. And those are the holes where Cam Smith can still miss those fairways. And now it's like he has no scoring holes. But
if he's hitting iron off the tee, there's some that he does that, but there's other ones where people are going to hit good tee shots in spots where they're trying to hit it that aren't in the fairway too. Like there's a couple of those drivable par 3s where they're just trying to give themselves a chance from a certain angle, right? And so as long as you can miss in that spot, my point is, if you want to talk about a pathway to being different with a guy that fits the short game bill, I think he's a really good answer.
I don't disagree with that. I will also throw out, let's do this. Let's talk about some like real dumpster dive guys, because there's one at $5,700. Actually, there are 2 at $5,700, maybe even 3 at $5,700 that I think are worth talking about. The one that I have in mind, Emiliano Grillo, his ball striking was spectacular in Canada. He's one of the main reasons why I had the success that I had, especially that last day. I mean, he got to 8 under and looked like it was just going to be the round of the tournament. He gave some back at the end of the final round, but his ball striking all week was sensational. If he brings that type of ball striking to Oakmont, he could make some noise. I'm not saying he's going to go win the golf tournament, but I'm talking like a top 20, contending for a top 10. I think it's well within his range of outcomes if that ball striking carries over to this week.
Yeah, no doubt. I like him and Vegas both at 5,700. They're both like Vegas has the ability to play hard courses well.
Yep.
I think he finished at top 10 at the. How do you make a guy that finishes at the top 10 of the PGA 5,700?
Yeah, Vegas and McCarty were the other two guys that I was talking about there. At 6,100, I also think Ryan Gerard is interesting. He's been playing really good golf, and he has been one of those guys who consistently stands out in the tough course and fast green splits.
If you want to go like way down, the guy that nobody's going to play that can play good here, that has the right mentality, that nobody probably talks about, is a kid named Trent Phillips. He played at UGA, former #1 player in the country. Like he's most of his time on Korn Ferry. When he figures it out, I'm going to tell you he's going to be really good. And I
You
think
might be right about that, but I don't think we need to save $300 going from proven PGA.
Yeah, you're right. I'm just saying if you want a true dumpster diver like that deserves to be down there, but that I think that could play good. Yeah, the pricing is not very good. I think you have a great point. Let's figure out how to be different and find that guy to stick with your guns and where does that come from?
Well, and I think that's one of the advantages to this like $5,000 range. Number one, you know that anybody that you use down here is going to be super contrarian. It's going to make your lineup different. And maybe that's one of the ways that you do something like Scotty Bryson to start or Scotty Rahm, where now you've taken like one or decision that most guys are doing, Scotty or Bryson, Scotty or the combo of Bryson Rahm. You're taking multiple of those guys, and now you're getting different with an individual play who's cheaper than the rest. So it's like it gives you multiple paths to success there. The Grillo play could pay off because your combination of studs finishes first and second, and that's a combination that most other people couldn't fit. Or it comes through because Grillo actually has the round he's capable of having, finishes T14 and is 12th in DraftKings points and really pays off that way at like 2% ownership.
Yeah, you have, and I think you're right. You got multiple paths to victory. Obviously, that's a, if Grillo plays okay and makes the cut and finishes 50th, but your two studs find their way into the top 3 or 4, you've done something really good and done something different. We haven't talked about Harris English yet.
He's on the list for sure. Another guy who really, really thrives in these difficult golf course,
hard golf course,
green splits. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like he loves hard golf courses.
I view him very similar as I do Andrew Novak. Both of these guys are just like bulldog grinders. They're going to try to get you a score no matter what. I know Novak had a lot of trouble at Muirfield Village. He talked about how difficult he found the rough on Pat Mayo's show. That was an awesome interview, by the way. If you haven't seen that, check out Pat talking with Andrew Novak. So I like him. I love Harris English at 6,700 if he's not too chalky. I think English will be popular, though. Novak probably not. I also think you can go right back to Nick Taylor at $6,300. He was 9,800 a week ago in a strong field. So 6,300 is a massive discount for a guy that we know when he gets into contention, he can get it done. I'm not saying he's going to go win, but it tells you that like he's got what it takes, whether he's battling the cut pressure, whether he's trying to grind out a top 10, he can do it down the stretch of a major championship. So I like him as a value. And then I think obviously we're not going to find many guys in the $8,000 range or the $7,000 range that we like because there are so few of them. But also the guys who are there who project well are garnering so much ownership that I think there's something to be said about trying to avoid that range, living in the 6K range, maybe going Keegan Bradley at 7,400. And then jumping up, I also think Justin Thomas at $9,000 could end up very underowned. He's near the top of our projections. In fact, he's fifth in expected strokes gained at just $9,000. And I don't think he's going to be significantly more popular than others around him. So I think JT could be a really good play by Thursday as well.
Yeah, the only guy that I might think about in the $8,000 range would be Fleetwood. that would be that's the only guy that in that range that I was like, I think he might not be super popular. He has the right mentality to show up in moments like this. I don't love the idea of playing people that haven't won and then, obviously now you're in a major, but I think he might be the exception to that rule.
I do agree with that. I also think for the first time this year, I would be okay with Ludwig Oberg. His splits, both difficult courses, fast greens, look really good, especially the fast green splits. But also, as somebody who has taken worse than 20.5 finishing position each of the last two events, watched him shoot 6 under at Sunday at the Memorial, and then played really well all weekend last week. I have noticed not only is his ball striking really good, but it looks like he's made very real improvements to his short game, which was a major weakness. We were ahead of the curve on Morikawa's improvement in the short game, and that did us wonders. We might have an opportunity to do the same with Oberg's short game here. So I think he'd have to fall under 10% for me to be interested at $9,600. But if he falls under 10%, especially if it gets to let's say 5% in single entries, I would definitely be interested there.
1,000,000% agree. And we also know that he's a closer. He's not going to be afraid to win if he does get in the situation. So I agree. I agree completely there.
Yeah. All right. I think it's time for some outrights. We covered DFS pretty well here. I don't think we can say much more until we have some actual ownership projections and GPP scores. But I will remind you guys, for those who haven't heard of the GPP scores, if this is your first time watching us, number one, appreciate you joining us. Hopefully you're finding this show really entertaining and informative. The GPP scores are just one number. DFS is difficult. There's so much you have to think about for every player: price, ownership, median outcome, ceiling outcome, floor outcome. What we've done is we have combined all of that, top 5 odds, win odds, top 10 odds, into one metric. A positive number tells you the player is underowned. A negative number tells you he's overowned. And what we have found is in a lot of these events, it makes decisions, especially at the top, really, really straightforward, where you might see 5 guys with a negative GPP score, and then bam, there's Shane Lowry with a positive one. He was positive last week. He was in my winning lineup. Nick Taylor, positive GPP score. Boom. Both of those guys finished 13 under in the top 10, I believe. The GPP scores make lineup building so much easier. And when you have PGA, which one of the differences between PGA DFS and other sports is you're choosing between 150 guys for every roster spot. It's not like you have to pick 2 pitchers out of 12 on the slate. You've got to pick 6 guys out of 150 some. The GPP scores really narrow things down. It makes the entire decision-making process a lot easier.
Yeah. I think you said it well earlier, just knowing why you're using them and what you're doing with them is really important, and how they just give you an edge, especially I think the best for me is when you get down to a final 2 combo, you're all right, I'm between these 2 and these 2 together in this lineup. And then you're oh, these GPP scores are way better.
You know what else they're really helpful with is a lot of the time, basically any DFS player, no matter what sport they play, has been in the situation where they are looking at a guy who on every site or whatever projection site they use doesn't project well for their price. But you might feel all right, I know he doesn't project well, but I think, number one, he's better than his actual projection. I think they're under projecting him, but also he's low enough owned that I think it's still worth that risk. And what the GPP scores do is they actually give you that indication. How much can you sacrifice raw projection for a low owned guy that you view as an upside play? GPP scores help that. And sometimes that means a guy who doesn't project that well will have a good enough GPP score that you just want to play him, period. But there are also instances where a guy doesn't have a great GPP score, but you can very clearly say okay, Justin Thomas has a 0.6 GPP score, but I think he's even better than his projection. So if they were projecting him the way I view him, clearly that GPP score would be one of the better ones. Now I can play him with confidence. So no matter what your process is, no matter how much you rely entirely on someone else's projections, whether you're making your own projections or you just use someone else's projections as a guide and then use your own input to decide how much you like or dislike a guy, the GPP scores can really help you. FTN Fantasy is where you will find them. And I believe promo code FTN still works. I don't know what that promo code even is, but give it a try. Go to FTN ftnfantasy.com/pricing. Try promo code FTN. And if it doesn't work, just DM me. We'll get you a promo code of some sort. With that, I think it's time to talk some outrights and get out of here, Justin.
Yeah. First of all, Scotty Scheffler is even money to finish 4th or worst. Think about that. Like, that's mind-blowing in the U.S. Open.
We've got him 57% for a top 5 finish. So that seems pretty much
it's just mind-blowing.
Yeah.
The guy that we didn't talk about at all this whole show, and I just want to get your thoughts in. Obviously, I'm not going to be involved in 13-1 Rory McIlroy.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think this driver problem is an issue? What do you make of the driver going bad? I mean, obviously, I don't think he cheated on purpose. Anybody that thinks that, I think, is ignorant. What's your thought here? Last week was pretty bad, like bad golf shots bad.
I don't think it's a driver problem. I think it's he got the thing that he was striving so much for. He had this like massive emotional release, and he just can't find the emotional motivation to get back to where he was. I think it's going to come back eventually. I think the US Open is a great opportunity for it to come back. Like he's been playing tournaments that clearly don't mean as much to him other than the PGA Championship, but now he's back to a tournament that will mean this much to him. I think the next thing on his mind, like the thing that's going to refocus him and re-energize him perfectly, is going to be the Ryder Cup. But until then, I'm very content to say, you know what, we probably don't see the elite Rory again until the lead up to the Ryder Cup. And so I think I'm going to be fading him. And I have already put out an underdog play where I took him worse than 20.5 at 1.19x. And I will probably add to that position as the week goes on. And there are more things that I like.
Yeah, I agree 100%. He's such a high profile player to play so bad last week. Just wanted to get your thoughts. I'm on the same page. Great point about the Ryder Cup will be the time where I think that you will see re-energized and refocused Rory. Until then, I probably won't be involved. Maybe if he's playing like the week or two before, knowing that he's grinding up to that point, but that would be about it.
Well, I also think that, look, like there's a probability to that bet, right? Like I'm not saying he's definitely going to be unfocused until we get to Ryder Cup season. I'm saying there's a decent chance that happens, which means if he's projecting at 6-7% in single entries or in the $4,444 contest that I'm playing this week because I won those tickets last week, I'm going to take a shot on Rory at when the payoff is that potentially huge. But currently we've got him. I'm thinking he's going to be like 15%, something like that. And in which case I'm probably not going to be interested.
Yeah, agree 1,000,000%. My first click was Seb Straka 47-1.
I like that, and I think Straka was so incredibly impressive at Muirfield Village on the weekend. Round of the day on Saturday, backed it up on Sunday with one of the best rounds of the day. He is one of the few players in this field that I think could survive Oakmont by ball striking it to death, by just getting around the golf course, by consistently hitting the shot he needs to hit hole after hole after hole. There is a very, very small group of people that I think can do that. Scotty, Rahm, Lowry, Straka might be like the first 4 guys, because when Bryson does it, like he's going to hit plenty of great shots, but he's also doing it because his misses are so manageable because of his distance that it's just okay. And he can make up for it by making birdies that other guys can't make. But Straka, Lowry, and Scotty, they dominate golf courses with how few mistakes they make. So I really like the Straka call. We've got him at 2.1%, which puts that 47-1 number like pretty much right on. I'm going to go Shane Lowry with my first one at 50-1. We've got him at 2.9%. I think these guys are pretty much the exact same player and same bet at this point. I think the one point that you actually can make in Straka's favor is if they were both 2 strokes off the lead with 3 holes to play, or they were both tied for the lead with 3 holes to play, I'll give Straka the nod in who I think can get it done under the gun. But in my mind, that's made up for by the 0.8 percentage point difference.
Which is funny because I can get Lowry at 37-1. So like that, you can see why I went over it to 47-1 with Straka. Like that's so
50,
crazy.
That 50 number for Lowry is available at FanDuel Sportsbook for anyone who wants to go fire on that one. Next, I like Keegan. We've got him at 2.4%. He's available as high as 80. I know one of the guys in my Discord earlier hit him at 100-1 somewhere, which actually it might still be available at 100. Let me check. It might just not be available where I'm currently at, but I will be in a few days. So I currently haven't made the bet, but let me see.
Yeah, see, I'm 62.
100-1 at Caesars, 100-1 at DraftKings, and then 80 at FanDuel, 75 at Bet365 for the each way. Also, Justin, 180-1 for the Open on FanDuel. So would it be hitting that earlier because Keegan should just never be 180-1 in any golf tournament, period?
Yeah, I agree. Like no tournament should Keegan Bradley ever be 180-1.
Yeah, I think 100-1 on Keegan for the U.S. Open, 180-1 on FanDuel for the Open Championship. Both of those are plays this moment. So far, that's all I've got. There are plenty of others down the board that I think are interesting. What do you think of Pendrith? We've got him at 1%. Let me see what his odds are for the U.S.
I got
Open.
him at 9. I got him at 95 is about my best number.
That stinks. I've got 151 available on Pendrith, which that seems worth it. 125-1 on Bet365 with the each way. To me, that's better than the pure 150. So I think I'm going to fire on that 125 for Pendrith.
What about old school Brooks Koepka coming back? I got him at 80-1. That's just a high number for a guy that we know can win majors.
It's very high. It also makes me want to look up the guy that I can't quit. What in the hell? Okay, never mind. Dustin Johnson's only 90-1 for the Open, but he is 172-1 for the U.S. Open, 150, only 100 with the each way though. So I don't think I'm interested in those. I think I'd prefer Brooks at the smaller number.
Yeah, I mean, closer to form. I've given Dustin Johnson his chance this year, and I'm over him. Like I could go without talking about him. It's cost me enough
I think
money.
you're probably right. Cameron Young, 150-1. Any interest there?
Yeah, I don't love a guy that hasn't won.
Yeah.
Like I said before, I mean, but I'll take Cameron Young 151 over Fleetwood 33-1, and I love Tommy Fleetwood.
Yeah, I agree there. McIntyre 110-1. Any interest there?
I mean, what do you have Burns at? I think I would probably go to Burns before I would go to McIntyre.
We've got Burns at 1.4% to win, which I think is probably a bit of an understatement just because he's so damn good at getting it done when he's in the moment. Even though he missed the easy birdie putt on the first playoff hole against Ryan Fox, 80-1 is the best available for him.
If I'm going to go anywhere else, I think the only other interest there is Burns for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, I think there's something to be said about winning. Man, I would say I'd be interested in Ryan Fox, but he can't. He knocked all those putts 5 feet by. The fact that he just kept making those comebackers, amazing.
Am I crazy for liking Grillo 250-1 within each way?
I mean, no. He's won on the PGA Tour. Like, he's playing
got
good.
him at 0.5%. I mean, the ball striking. Let me grab what his ball striking was last week because I'm telling you, it was just phenomenal. He gained 2.22 strokes per round on approach. It's his third straight event gaining over 1.5 strokes per round with his irons. His fourth in a row gaining 1.4 per round. Also drove the ball really well, especially on the weekend. I think that's a bet for me.
Yeah, I mean, especially with an each way.
Yeah. We've got him at 0.5%, so 250 is value anyway, but that's a bet I'm making for the each way payout. I do want to look though real quick, like what is his top 5 finish? Because if it's really good, never mind. Okay, so that's a really interesting one. His top 5 is 50-1 on Bet365. It's 23-1 on FanDuel, where he's 300-1 to actually win. It is 40-1 on DraftKings, where he's 400-1 to win. So you're actually getting a better number on Bet365, and then you can get an even better one when you go to the each way. So that's what I'm going to do with Grillo. All right. I think that's it for us, Justin.
Yeah. And then anybody that wants, I know you guys love to follow along. I'm playing USAM qualifier Wednesday in Edmond, Oklahoma. So we'll get
Beautiful.
the Discord
I'm
rowdy.
going to go play the Vermont Open this coming week as well. So
Yeah,
we'll see how those go. Hopefully we can.
Yeah, the Discord will have something to talk about Wednesday. So
absolutely. I have a very, very long track record of getting myself into contention and playing bad in the final round at the Vermont Open. So hopefully I can break one of those trends, but not both.
Yeah, perfect.
All right. I will give one final reminder. Going to do a contest, free contest to enter for the US Open. We're going to figure out the actual prizes based on how many people get in. And as Justin said, if you guys, we should do something where we have to get to like a certain amount of likes and comments. Let's do 50 likes and 10 comments on the show. 50 likes and 10 comments, and then Justin will add to the prize pool as well. Otherwise, you can find the link to the contest either in my Discord or the FTN Fantasy PGA DFS Discord. Either one, you don't have to do both. Either one, you will get the link. You do have to be a subscriber to one of the two to actually get that prize money. Even if you manage to get the link from a friend and end up in the contest, we are going to verify that you're actually a subscriber to one of the two.
And if you can even comment on, tell me tomorrow or Wednesday how bad I am at golf. It's fine. You can do that too. Like any comment you want.
Absolutely. And as we said earlier, we will happily be watching the US Open instead of playing and shooting 95 in these brutal conditions. It would have been really cool to see just how well we could play in these conditions, but I have a feeling we would be humiliated to no end.
I feel like we would have had a lot more followers, though, if you and I were playing a practice round together at the US Open.
That would have been an absolute blast. Yeah, we would have. People would have been like, why are there so many people following those scrubs that are hacking it out of the rough on every damn hole? It looks like they're shooting 95 in their practice round. But thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We will catch you next time.